Hello, everyone. A lot of recent news in regards to R3 Corda. Are they going to just do a simple minority stake in regards to what they're choosing to sell, or would it be a full sale? And who would benefit from it the most? Would it be Ripple XRP? Would it be, for example, Xin Fin XDC? Could Quant even have a say in regards to it? Those are the ones that caught my attention. And if anything, I don't feel as though Stellar will be part of the mix. Yes, you will see some news from OMFIF in that regard. And as we know, a few weeks ago, OMFIF reached out to do a collaboration with both Stellar and R3 Corda, but that's not the point. The point is the key findings in this. And I will elaborate a little bit more further than you've seen on other particular channels about why this all matters and give you some actual real data and findings that, of course, simply make sense moving forward for whatever platform chooses R3 Corda. And how about this for size? Would it even be the ones that we're talking about? There is some other competition out there that might very well choose to get involved with purchasing R3 Corda. Smash that like if you haven't done so already. Let's get into all of it and why it matters in today's outline. So, first thing we're going to jump into is shout out to our brother Smoke. He has posted quite a few things recently in regards to the matter. Thought I would highlight him first. Give him a follow over on his platform. Great research. As you can see from Smoke, he goes into detail about this, and he addresses some of the things that everybody's wondering about, and that is basically R3. So with this old presentation, it mentions that R3 presentation explains why XRP was chosen as the settlement mechanism Corda and how it connects to Swift GPI. If you look closely, you can see that the document being presented says Corda seller, supporting XRP and Swift. Before we get into that, we're going to play this quick little 41-second video and come right back. Here we go.
Asset ecosystem, which kind of leads into my next point. So we've had some recent announcements that have garnered some interest. We created a payment settlement application that's open source. Anybody can download it, anybody can use it or plug into it or what have you. And when we first did it, we did it for XRP, for the Ripple protocol standard. And that got a lot of people very excited that, oh my God, R3 and Ripple have settled their differences and are in bed together. No, not quite. It's just that it was very easy to do as a kind of as an MVP. But now we announced a partnership with Swift. So Swift GPI will plug into our payment settlement application, or actually vice versa. We'll plug into the GPI network. And again, the announcement about the Swiss digital exchange was a big news for us.
Okay, so as we see here, this is in 2019. That's quite a while back, don't get me wrong, and I'm not dismissing that at all. But in regards to the screenshot that we're talking about here, well, basically, as we zoom in, this gets kind of interesting because as we pull this up, what's highlighted here, and I'll zoom in even more, plain as day, you see like what it says here. It says Corda supporting XRP and Swift GPI, highlighted right there, plain as day in the red. Now, as I move back into the next part, I want to just put this back to the normal. I want you guys to understand that there's a lot to get into in regards to the weeds of this. And basically speaking, as I take you over to here, this comes from treasuryxl.com. While Ripple's XRP is the first cryptocurrency supported by the Corda settler, in the future it is very likely that R3 will make settlement and other cryptocurrencies possible. Right. We know that XDC, Xin Fin XDC, is this settlement coin in regards to R3 Corda. So we can't dismiss that. And if anything, again, why does this all really truly matter? And do we have anything recent? Well, the answer is yes. If you go to OMFIF, once again, you see here only 5 days ago, there was an interview. And it's called Examining the Changing Landscape of Digital Assets with R3. And it talks about how in many capital markets, there has been a long expecting, overhaul in how their business functions, but it's the disruptive efforts or effects in regards to digital assets technology. In this interview, you will see Kate Karimson, R3's Chief Commercial Officer, who joins Lewis McClellan of OMFIF's Digital Monetary Institute editor to discuss what these changes will look like. Now, this is over 40 minutes. I'm going to play a particular highlight for you. Why I'm going to do that? Because if anything, what about Quant? Yes, we did bring that up as well. I'm going to go ahead and play this. This is at the 13-minute and 9-second mark. Put some emphasis on this key term, network of networks. Here we go.
And so what I would say is that there has been a shift very much away from this focus on like an actual single universal ledger to embracing more of a network of networks model, where this would be a model where multiple ledgers and multiple networks can coexist and interact, which also could be not just DLT networks, but also traditional networks as well. I think that's also an important fact to really highlight. And a big part of that change, I should say, it is a couple of different key facts, which I think when you say them out loud sound perhaps quite obvious, but aren't always directly obvious when you're in within the moment itself. So firstly, there's a real importance of maintaining sovereignty over be it we're talking about central banks here, we're talking about large FMIs. They need to be able to protect and maintain level of sovereignty. So they need to be able to choose solutions that enable them to retain control of what they're looking to do, and also progress and innovate and be competitive, whilst also enabling kind of cross-ledger communication. So from our perspective, we very much believe in a kind of networks and network model. We are very pro interoperability. Again, when I say interoperability, I'm not just talking about between different types of ledger, but also different types of network themselves as well. And we think that's going to be crucial to us all being able to benefit from this technology in the way that we all should be thinking about benefiting. And interoperability is one of those topics which is, again, rightly so, growing in focus from the market, because from our side, we believe, depending on sometimes I think, Lewis, we get way too stuck in the technology. And yes, I am reasonably a techie person, but I'm actually a business person, and I'm actually here about the business value this technology can drive. So we always must keep the focus on that lens. So if you think about the business value this technology can drive, then lots of these questions actually come out a lot easier to answer, is what I would say. So from our side, yes, the business value it can drive, then we should drive a technology choice. And that technology choice will be driven off, be it capabilities, requirements, non-functional requirements, which will then spit out what's appropriate for what you're looking to do. And the answer to that question wouldn't necessarily always be what used to be referred to as a private permissioned ledger, albeit I would say, again, that term has sometimes led to unfair connotations about the capabilities, because private, I guess, naturally draws kind of a closed off, which isn't the case at all when it comes to Corda. So that's why we're very much now open permissions, and that's what we believe in. So again, when we take a few steps back, what I would say is, a few years ago there was this view that perhaps would be like one ledger to rule them all. A little bit more akin to, if you think about Ethereum and Ethereum mainnet as only one chain. But then if you bring it back to the world which we operate in, which is financial markets and capital markets, that model just is not a copy and paste model, but we still want to benefit from the technology that it brings. So that's why we very much believe in network of networks model, where you'll see interoperability between networks, and then also the different drivers of choosing that technology will ultimately mean there'll be different technologies underpinning different use cases and different solutions.
So if I heard that, I would think to myself immediately, wow, this is going to be a huge opportunity for Quant. But is it really? Because if anything, if you study Quant, then we already know that the whole point of Quant with the Overledger is to leverage through interoperability current blockchains. So why go out and buy, right, this particular technology if you're blockchain agnostic? Am I overthinking it? Some people point out, well, it could still benefit, and I get that too. As we jump over to Quant Network, I want to highlight some key things because this lady mentioned specifically network of networks. Do we have anything to cite in that regards? The answer is yes. As I pull this up on your screen, well, first thing that is basically mentioned here is, are central banks thinking radically about or enough about CBDCs? And more importantly, what does it say in regards to network of networks? Now, well, you guys know on the live show, I've shared this with you guys a few times. This panel you see here is from Future of Finance. And of course, the host on the bottom left is always Dominic Hobson. But you do see Ricardo Carrera on the top right from R3. More importantly, what does it say in regards to network of networks? Well, we see here, straight from Gilbert Verdian a while back, at least 2022, that basically he feels as though we won't see the survivability of algorithmic or crypto stablecoins. In fact, he feels as though that we will instead see a world of regulated and issued commercial stablecoins from e-money. And what we mean by that is e-money license holders and commercial banks. At the same time, we'll have a, quote, network of networks of commercially issued stablecoins that are interdependent and linked to wholesale CBDCs. These will be able to be redeemed, accepted, and settled across networks in a true cross-border fashion. Now, here's the thing. This part, settled across networks in a true cross-border fashion. Well, wouldn't it make sense to maybe purchase something like this if you have the means to do so, which would be R3 Corda? Because if that's if XDC is the settlement token, well, if we're talking about the RSN as in the regulated settlement network, well, will this benefit Quant? Some people say, well, they are already benefited from it. Exactly. You already have the whole thing of Quant and R3 to begin with. We already have Xin Fin XDC and the R3 Corda bridge. So who would truly benefit from it? Well, of course, that leads us to maybe something like XRP, and we'll get more into that. But the whole point is, these will be travel trusted and backed by real money, which brings us to this. Another example of network of networks, because back in June of 2021 from the Quant Network on their mid-year technology update, it mentions specifically, again, network of networks, and it says, plain as day, at the protocol level, because, we are talking about platforms, right? And we are talking about protocols. So they initiated the development of ODAP. And back in 2020, that was in collaboration with MIT. And they're developing ODAP along with others within the IETF, Internet Engineering Task Force. And we've seen ODAP branch off into, for example, other things, right? Like we see in SATP. But in today's internet protocols and standards such as TCP/IP and HTTP, in our future ecosystem with multiple Overledger instances globally, each Overledger has an associated fleet, yes, you heard me right, fleet of RCGs and DLTs spread geographically, and the Overledger instances can pass secured traffic to one another in a global network of networks. Interesting to see that as well, again, from a few years back. A little bit more about this, because as we get more further into this dates all the way back to 2019. And what do we see in regards to the beginning of the outline from Smoke in regards to 2019? You see that Overledger network, the network of networks for what? A hyper-connected world. More importantly, as we jump down to it, it says plain as day that Quant Network has already solved interoperability through the Overledger. And more importantly, the Overledger network is in essence a network of networks. So that is worth pointing out, because when we look more into it, it allows enterprise and communities, stakeholders to access their hosts, I should say, their own Overledger gateways and participate in a growing hyper-connected, decentralized ecosystem. But that statement, Overledger network, is in essence a network of networks. Well, that pounds home what that lady just shared with us just a few days ago from OMFIF in that interview from R3 Corda. All right, a little bit more in regards to this. So if I play the whole thing with you, she puts a significance in regards to Project Agora. And basically, you know, even with Quant, they reference this in regards to what dates back to last summer about the Future of Finance's digital money event. Because what gets interesting is back to the whole topic of, a unified ledger. This lady basically mentioned it briefly, but, would that truly bring data to assets in a unified environment? And more importantly, would we see something like this, where, again, back at EBA day, where you have basically, is the missing piece settlement? I think it is. So if the missing piece is settlement, and you have, for example, R3 Corda, some people say, well, then this benefits XDC, of course, a lot more. I would lean towards that as a yes as well. The whole idea of Project Agora is an example of a project that hopes to overcome the challenge by having commercial bank money and a settlement asset on the same network. Well, keep in mind comparing it to the regulated liability network, because at the end of the day, the key test net, or tenant, I should say, is interoperability. So if the key is interoperability, then who really benefits? Well, again, maybe they all benefit. Currently speaking, even before sale, we see how all three benefit: XRP, Quant, XDC. As I take you to this, Crypto Erie a while back in 2021, share this. And I've also shared this back on the old channel. About 90% of the banking sector leverages Corda. Okay, 90% of the banking sector. If that's the case, if 90% of the banking sector leverages Corda, wouldn't XDC benefit from this the most, considering that XDC is a settlement token? Guys, I'm with you, and I own all these. So it says, of course, construct these future payment rails that incorporate these digital assets. And what do you see? You don't see XLM on this, and that's no fun on XLM. I love XLM, but the three that are highlighted are XDC, XRP, and Quant. Let's go ahead and play this. This is basically David Vatchev, Venture Development Lead at R3. Listen to this. We'll come right back.
And of course, can construct these future payment rails that incorporate these digital assets. So there are partner customers, things like BTCC, as a lot of people now know with the recent GameStop thing, how much actually the clearing and settlement of equities is important. We've had things like Wells Fargo and MasterCard and NASDAQ. So, as I mentioned, about 90% of the banking sector leverages Corda. So this is a huge use case.
Right. Huge use case. Now, speaking of that use case, here is a particular visual. Some of you guys have seen this, but maybe not everybody has fully soaked it in. More importantly, it's understanding the R3 Corda bridge, because plain as day, what do we see? We see from the Corda network on the bottom left corner, the whole idea of minting a wrapped XDC via the bridge with R3 Corda. And then on the bottom right, we see, for example, the XDC token. And like it says, burn a wrapped version of XDC via the bridge. All right, bridge to what? Well, boom, of course, still the R3 Corda bridge. So what do you see in regards to the bottom? Well, you see on the bottom that the transaction would happen with XDC. Well, if the transaction's with XDC and you have a remittance function, well, it's safe to say that, once again, you have the mechanism of settlement, and that is the settlement token, settlement coin, whatever you want to refer to it as XDC. So again, I wanted to pound that home with an actual visual, and of course, we see how it has the bridge with SBI, and we've been there and done that. So as I take you to this next part, this was posted roughly, I think, about two weeks ago, give or take, from R3. I have to update my LinkedIn. I have a problem on it where it just does it all in Spanish and some other languages, but it's okay. R3 was one of the first firms to fully embrace the network of networks. Again, back to the whole thing of what you see in regards to Quant. And of course, the approach to interoperability. And what does it also say? Corda is live and in production as an open permission platform designed for regulated markets, used as the basis of a large number of networks. And the network of network strategy lays the groundwork for a secure, open digital economy where value can be exchanged without compromising sovereignty. So we get further into it. Shout out to Quant Papa for this one. It's Ines Enfranc, and she is the person that's of emphasis here because, like she posted 4 months ago, great news. Cross-chain DVP between HQLAX, built on R3 Corda and Finale International Payment System. I remember when I first talked about this, again, back with the old channel, this kind of like nobody really paid attention to it. Hardly anybody watched it. But now, if anything, I think we should pay more attention to it because what does she say? Built on enterprise Ethereum. Think about that. As per the article, interoperability is enabled through the Finale Atomic Settlement ASP, which uses Enterprise Ethereum Alliance EEA standards. So at the end of the day, who would benefit from all this the most? More importantly, do we have anything in regards to code to references? Now I get it. For some of you guys, I'm going to lose you on this, so I won't try to make it too super technical. But according to GitHub, when we get more into this, you see plain as day on the right side that Corda is in fact scalable, it's permission, it's peer-to-peer, but it's a distributed ledger technology platform that enables the building of applications to foster and deliver digital trust between parties in regulated markets. More importantly, as you get further into it, it mentions plain as day some key things. And if anything, I want to jump into some of those key things right here in a bit. As I take you to the next part of why this is important is, well, we talked about XDC with R3 Corda being the settlement token. But again, back to Smoke, because Smoke was talking about, for example, some of these key things. And of course, that's worth pointing out as well, because as you see plain as day in this GitHub, it says Ripple, which contains an implementation of the make off ledger payment flow called Make XRP Payment. Well, Make XRP Payment uses Ripple lib Java, which is basically a library to create and sign XRP transactions. More importantly, as we get further down to it, Swift, which contains implementation of the make off ledger payment flow called Make Swift Payment. Well, you have the whole idea of Make Swift Payment, which uses Swift HTTP API to submit Swift payment instruction, but then it brings in Oracle. And as we know, Oracle is part of what? It's part of the Overledger ecosystem. And if anything, Oracle recently, or I should say JP Morgan recently mentioned about over a month ago, their collaboration with Oracle. And if anything, it says here, Oracle contains an implementation of the XRP Oracle service. So XRP obviously has their own thing with Oracle, right? But that checks whether an XRP payment specified by transaction hash can be credited towards a specific XRP amount. That's really interesting. And as I take you to this next part, what do we have in reference in regards to the code? We see plain as day on line 29 of the Corda app contract. It mentions plain as day in regards to finance obligation contract types. This right here, settlement method. And what does it say on number 29? The obligation could be denominated in GBP, but the payment could be made in XRP. Just pointing that out. Now, another thing to get into is, again, another citation, and this time from Corda.net, in regards to R3 Corda Settler, and in regards to a custom off-ledger payment rail, says plain as day that if you're a developer, you could take steps in regards to this. What steps? Well, again, understanding that not in all cases necessary, but for Ripple XRP, we need the current XRP value, which, you know, fluctuates over time. But again, understanding that settlement and what kind of settlement, understanding the whole thing of Oracle, settler Oracle protocol, you get it, right? So if anything, I'm going to play this, and it's a little nerdy, but if anything, it's good to reference this. This is straight from R3, actually is straight from Vimeo, but think about the settlement. Let's play this. I know it's a little technical, but it'll all make sense. Here we go.
Okay, so for this demo, we need 4 Corda nodes: party A, party B, a notary cluster, and an oracle. So for this particular demo, this oracle node actually contains 2 oracle services. One is the XRP settlement oracle, and the other is an FX rate oracle. So it's just easier to have them on one node for this demo. So what I'm going to do is start a bunch of flows from the node shells you can see here, and then we're going to look at the results of those flows. But firstly, what I need to do is create an obligation between Alice and Bob. Usually, an obligation would probably be created via some other Corda app, like an invoicing or a trading Corda app. But today, for the demo, I'm just going to create one manually. So luckily, I have these pre-made commands, which I can copy paste into the node shell to save time. So I'm just going to show you the first one here, which is to create an obligation for a specific amount. So you can see here that the amount is made up of a quantity in cents and a token type, which in this case is US dollar. We say that party A is the obligor and counterparty B is the beneficiary. We say that the obligation is due by this point in time. This is actually a Unix timestamp, so it's this many days from the Unix from the epoch, which is actually, I think, the 1st of December. And we say that this obligation is not anonymous, so the party information is included inside the obligation as well as the public keys. So we can just start that command now, and we can see now that there is an obligation between Alice and Bob, party A and party B, for $10 US. So that's great. So now both A and B can see the same obligation. Next, what we need to do is actually novate the face value currency of this obligation, because we want to settle it in XRP. So what we need to do is use this command where we change the token type from US dollar to XRP. And of course, because this implies an FX rate or an FX transaction, we need to use the FX oracle. So I'll just enter that command, and we should get back an updated obligation. So we can see here now that the obligation is denominated in XRP, and it's 27.1 XRP, which is the US dollar value of XRP at that point in time. Perfect. Right. So what we need to do now is add the settlement instructions. So that has to be done by the beneficiary node. So we can go over here to party B, who's the beneficiary. And what they're saying is that they want to be paid to this XRP address, and they want to use this oracle as the settlement oracle.
All right, you guys get the gist of that. I mean, it goes on further from there. But again, settlement, that's the key thing here. So, you know, this was already put into place a long time ago. So if anything, what would happen in the future if, and again, this is just hypothetical, okay? But if we have R3 Corda Bridge, would it be renamed in the future to XRP R3 Corda Bridge to XDC? Could very well be a thing. And think about how much XRP would benefit moving forward because of everything that R3 Corda is really tied to in regards to traditional finance and legacy markets and so on. So taking the next part, I want to just put some highlight on this, and I'll zoom in a little bit more if you can see it better. Just in case you missed it, plain as day, and shout out to Quant Papa for this screenshot, you see, like it says, Ripple, and it says Corda, and it's basically, it's there. It's all in code, and it's just not just that gentleman saying it. So take it to this next part as well on the outline. I'm going to have to shrink this down a little bit more. I want you guys to see this, and was it mentioned? Key research developments, Project Cedar and NYIC Project Cedar focused on what? Well, you see that it focused on using DLT to test the concept of a regulated liability network, RLN. And as we know, RLN is a theoretical payment infrastructure designed to support CBDC exchange and settlement in both domestic interbank payments and cross-border USD payments. Back to the whole thing about USD payments, because we already saw the example in regards to R3 Corda. So there could be some benefit in regards to the quant side of things, but it gets interesting here because when we look at the bottom, what does it say? Further information, the United States Federal Reserve System dedicated webpage on central bank digital currency, Federal Reserve Bank of Boston's report on the collaboration with MIT dates back to December 2022, and Federal Reserve Bank of New York's findings on Project Cedar Phase 2 times UBIN. And we also see November 4, 2022. You may feel like, well, is that it? That's all you got? Well, boom, look at that. Quant Network with the citation, because they state the whole thing of in at the banker, Gilbert Verdian, yes, Gilbert, discusses Project Cedar Phase 2 times UBIN plus a CBDC project between, for example, the Monetary Authority of Singapore and the New York Fed to improve wholesale cross-border settlement using multiple currencies. It's interesting to see them post that. And as I take you to the next part, straight from the IETF, I'll zoom in a little bit more about this. What does it say? Well, on the data tracker, you see, for example, services. You see Project UBIN. You see, for example, R3 Corda, and it dates back to 2019. And more importantly, you see, for example, SATA, Thomas Harjano, and you also see, for example, M. Hargreaves, as in Martin Hargreaves of obviously Quant Network. And what do you see? SATP, secure asset transfer and interoperability architecture. So this is all aging very, very well. But what's it say in regards to IETF? That draft, right? Architecture, January 2024. We're in 2024. So when you see things like this, it's like, okay, maybe Quant would benefit from this. Right, exactly. But look what it says on the bottom. Another thing from the Data Tracker Internet Engineering Task Force, the future is here, Project UBIN, and again, dating all the way back to the whole thing with R3 Corda, technical white paper 2019. And as I take you to this next part, I'll zoom back out for you to see it a little bit better. And what do you see? Well, you see the whole idea that whether directly between two wholesale CBDC networks or between the wholesale CBDC network and the multi-CBDC network, transfer of currency assets is a problem for which SATP appears to be, and you read that right, the most suitable solution. All right. And as I take you to this, I want to share this with you. You see, in regards to financial services, Corda, as we know, is widely recognized as the best in-class platform for financial services because it is permissioned, by design, scalable, and purpose-built for high-value transactions. So in reality, whoever does land Corda, let's just be honest, they're gonna benefit big time, right? And of course, you see a lot of trusted names. We know that we got DTCC with Quant. We know that we got, for example, all these other ones, for example, Ripple XRP, HSBC. We got MAS. We got some of these other ones like MUFG. Nexi, of course, is big with Quant. SDX, we understand the whole connections with Quant with that. Did a few deep dives in regards to that. I'm working on an outline as soon as I can share certain things I'm allowed to share in regards to Wells Fargo. And of course, we know the World Bank selected Ripple XRP and Stellar XLM for global stable coins, right? So interesting to see this as well. Shout out to Quant Papa for the visual. All right, speaking of DTCC, DTCC stated back in August 2022, Project IAM platform for, live parallel production environment processing over 100,000 transactions per day on a DLT. But states DTCC has selected R3 Corda as underlying DLT tech for Project IAM platform. All right, leveraging and whatnot. Well, it gets interesting because even as of recently, as we know with R3 Corda, they were the top innovator in finance 2024 blockchain digital assets. And more importantly, what's it say below it? Best digital currency, digital asset integration, and interoperability solution. And of course, as I take you to this other part, what do we have here? More awards that they got, right? Business Awards UK, tokenization, everybody's thrilled. And what do you also see here? Who trusts R3 and Corda to accelerate their journey to CBDCs? Well, Central Bank of the United Arab Emirates, Banque de France, the oversight of the BIS, Reserve Bank of Australia, and we see some other ones. Obviously, the MAS and some other key ones. And more importantly, what about UDPN? Because as we know, UDPN selected Ripple XRP and Stellar XLM. Well, look what it says here. UDPN, all-in-one digital currency sandbox. Look at the pricing, for crying out loud. For commercial bank version, you have $15,000 a month. For central bank version, that's $20,000 a month. But what's more important is understanding both have a common thing of a private ledger, and both understand the significance of a tokenized deposit system, and if anything, incorporating wholesale CBDCs. So with that said, there's that. And of course, there's a little bit more about this. The purpose of a UDPN all-in-one sandbox. And again, understanding emphasis on what? APIs. It's really interesting, does it not? What do you also see here? Announce a UDPN commercial all-in-one digital currency platform. And you see the differences, but again, they share a common goal because they have incorporated key things in regards to their platform. And as I take you to this last or second to last page, it's their vision, future digital currency ecosystem in a country. And you see a lot of emphasis on, for example, transaction nodes, and more importantly, tokenized deposits, whether it's privately on chain, centralized, or even public change. Well, we understand that Quant recently put out a notification, I covered it in my last video, about private and permissionless and being able to tap into, for example, the permission blockchains and the permissionless ones, I should say. So significance on that. We see from the UDPN on the screenshot the whole need and want for an API gateway, and more importantly, how it connects to business nodes and transaction nodes. Because as we know, all validator nodes contain a governance system that ensures adherence to the rules of the UDPN. There will be multiple validator nodes in the network, with more being added as the alliance grows. Not all validator nodes are required to participate. Right. But if you purchased Ripple XRP, basically R3 Corda somehow, because you have the most amount of money of all the projects that we're talking about here, I mean, let's face it, guys, as far as market cap, it would make sense that they would benefit from the most, I should say. This would definitely be a game changer for Ripple XRP, especially since they already have the whole thing with UDPN. And that, of course, brings me to this. And that is straight from the UDPN, because it talks about, for example, interoperable payment infrastructure for the digital currencies of tomorrow. Say what you want. If UDPN is part of that competition, if you will, and they already selected Stellar and also Ripple XRP, and now you have the whole thing with R3, well, this in itself could be a massive game changer, because as we see recently posted from Ledger Insights, enterprise blockchain firm R3 seeks to invest, or I should say seeks investors or sale, and that was just roughly 2 days ago. And like it says in the highlight for you guys, as we know, R3 had an agreement with Ripple to promote Ripple to R3's banking clients. So again, emphasis on banking clients. As payment is received, or I should say as payment, it received options over XRP tokens. So if anything, wouldn't this create more incentive for R3? I think the answer is yes. And the other thing is the two firms fell out over the deal, but eventually settled. We know about that. But while the size of the settlement was never announced, they estimated that the value of XRP in vault was at least $240 million. What happens with regulatory clarity when things like Ripple XRP is truly being used at full scale? I think it'd be a massive win for R3 to highly consider not just doing a minority stake of Ripple XRP, but maybe very well doing a majority stake. As far as it, being a case of all of it to XRP, I don't have an answer, but I definitely feel as though that was worth pointing out. Now, in closing, we did talk about the whole thing of the other ones that we don't talk about. At the end of the day, we know that R3 Corda is somewhat up for sale. Who would most likely purchase it, right? That's the bottom line. Well, the ones I want to talk about also that aren't part of the typical mix of the coins that we hold are some of the ones that, let's face it, you can't really even purchase anyway, because they don't work that way, and that is Consensus. All right, so they are a leading Ethereum-focused blockchain company. Consensus could very well benefit from acquiring, of course, R3 Corda, their enterprise, their solutions, and of course that would allow them to expand its reach in the financial sector. And say what you want, I know you guys don't want to hear this. That'd be a massive win for Ethereum moving forward. Got to mention that. Now, of course, we know the whole thing with Ripple, already mentioned that, but acquiring Corda could very well strengthen their position. I think the answer is yes for Ripple XRP going forward, which brings me to the next topic, and that is basically IBM. We know about IBM and Hedera. What about IBM and R3? Well, IBM, given its long-standing involvement, I should say, in enterprise technology, you better believe that they could very well see Corda as a valuable addition to their portfolio. And as we know, IBM is one of the biggest names out there, and they have been for decades. So would we see them consider its focus on the financial industry? I think, if anything, everybody has a say on the chess game moving forward in regards to this. So it's not our typical players, everybody. What about other potential buyers? Well, there's even a company called Digital Assets. Some of you guys are familiar with them, but they are in fact a leading provider of blockchain technology solutions for financial institutions. More importantly, Digital Asset could very well be interested in Corda's technology and client base. And if anything, I know some people are like, oh no, I hope they don't go with them because that doesn't benefit us. And I would agree with you on that. And of course, that brings me to the last part. I'll say it once again in regards to Quant Network. And that is basically, I feel as though that while it's less likely that the Quant Network, with its focus on interoperability between blockchains, could potentially see value in acquiring Corda's technology, well, they could see that, right? They could see it big time because they could integrate it into its Overledger platform. But to me, it kind of ruins the whole purpose of being blockchain agnostic, right? But, Gilbert Verdin, Martin Hargreaves, and the rest of the Quant crew are very, very smart people, and they know a heck of a lot more than me. They could probably figure out a way where that could be a huge benefactor. So at the end of the day, while this is all speculation, we will see which one would be the one to go with it. And for all we know, maybe things change. Maybe R3 changes their mind or whatever, and something opens up for them. We don't know, but we'll pay attention to this. And here's my answer in closing. For me, basically, it's like this. I feel as though that XRP would benefit the most moving forward, and they have the most amount of capital moving forward. I said that I would close it out. I do want to throw this out there, and that's from Quincy Jones, just real quick on the screen. So he posted this literally on the 25th, and he shared that there was this post from Atul Kakade. The payments use case for XDC has moved past beyond just R3. It is designed to work with a multi-platform, including Swift. Keep an eye on website and social handles for the unveiling of XDC for payments. Some of you guys, I know where you're coming from. You're going to say, yeah, it's going to be XDC. And guess what? I'm with you. That's why, and I'll come back to the frame for a second. Why don't you be strategic about this instead of making everything tribalism, right? That's no knock on you guys. You guys rock. But for me, this is why I don't want to be a maxi on one token or one coin. If anything, diversification is the key, because if XDC lands this, that's going to be even a win moving forward, but it's already a win for them anyway with the R3 Corda bridge. Or if it's XRP, Quant, et cetera, it's a win moving forward. Why not just own some of these and add it to your portfolio? That's what I'm personally doing. But again, not financial advice. You have to make that decision for yourself. So the saying goes, know what you have, know why you hold it. The research trumps FUD 110%. Simply do me a favor. You listen to the entire outline and simply type in this keyword into the comments. And that is Corda, Corda. And I'll know that you listened to the entire outline. Thanks again, everybody. May you have a blessed start of your work week. We'll see you on the next one.
If managing your crypto feels like solving a puzzle, it's time to switch to Decent Wallet. Say goodbye to complicated setups and hello to Decent Wallet, the hassle-free solution to your digital currency needs. With just a few taps, you can manage, track, and secure your crypto with unmatched ease. And here's the best part. Grab your Decent wallet at a discounted price by using the referral link below. Don't miss out on making your crypto experience smoother and more secure.